Oompa Loompa Doopa-Dee-Do. I've got another movie review for you. Oompa Loompa Doopa-Da-Dee. It gets a recommendation from me. Okay, enough of the singing. Wonka is directed by Paul King and stars Timothy Chalamet, Kala Lane, Olivia Colman, Rowan Atkinson, Hugh Grant, and a bunch of others. So, most people know about the 1971 film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and the book that it's based on, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, written by Roald Dahl. Willy Wonka is, of course, a massively popular character who defined many childhoods, so going into his origin story feels like something that was never really asked for or needed, even if it was done fairly well in the Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film from 2005. So I went into the film with some skepticism, but I left as absolutely as satisfied as one of Wonka's customers. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story follows Willy Wonka, played by Timothy Chalamet, as he tries to set up a chocolate shop in the midst of the Chocolate Cartel, a group of three chocolatiers, Fickle Gruber, Nose, and Slugworth, who basically sell chocolate to the upper crust of society and who basically act like a bunch of criminals who run off chocolate as opposed to like drugs and stuff like that. So Willy Wonka has to find a way to get his own shop and to sell his own chocolate while evading the police with the help of a young orphan girl named Noodle, played by Kala Lane, and a bunch of other side characters who end up in the employ of a really mean hotel essentially owner and laundromat owner, played by Olivia Colman. So yeah, this movie definitely takes a lot of liberties when it comes to both Wonka's origins and when it comes to Wonka's main identity. But at the same time, it still feels like it fits pretty well. Probably because of Paul King's very well done British humor. There's a lot of dry humor that's used here, but it still feels like it fits within the original 1971 film and even a bit to the 2005 film. It feels like Timothy Chalamet's version of Wonka is just an amalgamation of all the different versions of Wonka, mixed in with a bit of Chalamet's boyish charm. I actually didn't know if I was gonna like him when I first saw him in its opening musical number, Hatful of Dreams, but the more I saw him in the film, the more I really saw a young version of Wonka, not just someone playing a role. Granted, I don't know how he ends up as the more cynical Gene Wilder version or the more uh, utterly insane Johnny Depp version, but for his own interpretation of the character, I think it was done pretty well. Same goes with most of the side characters, Noodle especially, who justifies her role in the film very well. The Chocolate Cartel, I think, are just the most entertaining versions of Slugworth, Prodnose, and Fickelgruber that we have. Granted, they didn't appear much in the other films, but they actually come across as pretty well done antagonists here, and pretty entertaining ones for ones who barely had much of a description in the books or the previous movies. And I even appreciate most of the musical numbers. Most of them naturally go to Wonka, but at the same time, they move the story along. They have a lot of great choreography to them, and some of them are even tied to the chocolate that he makes. Therefore, having it be a Broadway style musical makes total sense, and it helps the film look absolutely colorful and full of life, exactly the way a Wonka movie should be. Now, I do have some criticisms when it comes down to it. One being that the ending does feel a tad bit stuffed. Like, there's a lot of stuff that ultimately ends up resolved at the end that feels like they had to pack a lot of it in the last 10 to 15 minutes. And also, the film really doesn't go into Wonka's darker impulses that I feel would have made for a more interesting performance. Chalamet is delightful in the role, but I think that having a bit more of an edge to it would have had those heartwarming moments just hit all the greater. But regardless, for a movie that I didn't expect much out of, it's possibly one of my favorite musicals of the whole year. That's why I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. See you next time.